People once believed that when someone dies, a crow carries their soul to the land of the dead.
But sometimes something so bad happens that a terrible sadness is carried with it, and the soul can't rest.
Then sometimes, just sometimes, the crow can bring the soul back to put things right.
Things can never be right. My soul will never rest until we are together again.
What is up, Screamers? We are back with another Suns and Shadows podcast talking about, yep, that's right, The Crow Stairway to Heaven Part 2. And I am your host, Jeff. I am always joined by my co-host, Kevin. Kevin, Crow Stairway to Heaven, Mark Dacascos. What did you think of this second half? Dude, I know, right? You want to claw your eyes out and wonder, what the hell and fucking shit did I just literally watch? It's kind of like nails on a chalkboard, in my opinion.
I feel like we owe everyone that's watching along with us an apology for the setup.
We are sorry.
The setup that we gave last week saying, hey, I can't wait to see what happens next time or next week for the rest of the series.
Yep.
Golly, it was, I could have waited. I did. I sat and I
waited.
Literally stared at a wall all week last week, the very same wall from sunrise to sunset while my daughter was in the hospital, and couldn't watch more than episode 12 of The Crow.
Paint drying was more interesting.
Yeah, it really was. Like, I sat and I watched like Bluey, not listened to it. I had my headphones on the entire time, but like Spidey and His Amazing Friends, basically everything that's on Disney Junior, anything but The Crow Stairway to Heaven, because episode 12 was so bleh. It was so bland compared to what we'd just seen, and worse off, it was stupid.
I couldn't agree more. And special shout out to our buddy Rob and his co-host on the Back to Bluey podcast, because you just mentioned Bluey. Got to give a shout out to them, Kevin.
It's true. Hey, buddy. I had no idea Bluey was that big. Like, I'm flipping channels just trying to find something to make Harley happy that's not going to like offend the rest of the children's ward.
I never knew about Bluey until he said, "Oh, we're doing a podcast." I'm like, wait, what the hell is this show? Never heard of this before. But it's a good show, good podcast. Everybody should check that out. Back to Bluey.
Yes. But back to The Crow.
Oh, man.
Really? I went back to Bluey. I did for like the entire week that we were there. I watched.
Wait, can we take this back and talk about Bluey for the rest of the show? Like,
Rob's asleep, I bet.
Damn we could. Rob, wake your ass up. Come on, let's go, bud.
I don't know. This second half of the season, I don't know what they were thinking. It's like maybe they decided to get all their filler episodes and just put them in the second half of the season.
That's honestly what it fucking felt like to me. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Not only that, but they throw in like 7 different storyline ideas. It feels like, what the hell are you doing with the blender and the plot lines in this second half? It's like, do you really have like no idea where you're going? Usually by that second half, the show has figured out what they want to do and where they're going. You're talking about the Lazarus group. You're talking about the fucking snakes. You're talking about Rasputin. Like, dude, fucking Rasputin in the fucking Crow show? What the hell are we trying to set up? It makes no sense.
That was dumb as shit. Made no sense, but was enjoyable. I did not dislike that episode.
I am not gonna lie. I did get a kick out of the Rasputin episode. I'm like, okay, that's interesting, but you're pulling back from the nightmare guy, the internet troll that was trying to creepily be friends with Skate Girl, our girl Katie Stewart. Wonderful actress. I thought she did great this second half of this season, but man, the creep factor was strong when the Rasputin episode was going on. I'm like, oh man, we're going back down creepy stranger danger here. So
And that's not just because it had a bunch of Russians in it.
They could have been white Russians. I might have enjoyed that a little bit more. But black Russians, I think they would have made that a little bit stronger of an episode to digest. And by that, I mean alcohol content, people. This is not Racist Thursday.
No, that's right. It's Friday. It's Friday. We're
Heading into Memorial Day. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Nostrovia.
Oh, but the Rasputin, that I can't say. Maybe it was the weirdest. Maybe it wasn't. I think maybe Top Dollar was probably the weirdest. Because I'm not sure what they were wanting to do with that. Was that like a Pied Piper sort of deal?
Oh, Jesus Christ. I have no fucking idea. The fact that Top Dollar was even coming back and they hadn't even teased it for like basically like 16 fucking episodes. Like, what are we doing here, people? We're saving a reveal for a top villain for basically an episode or two to the very end.
That never showed up.
It was in voice only.
Yeah.
I bet the ADR track people were like, what the fuck are we doing here?
Let's just take this. We'll make this catalog of lines. I don't know.
Kidding.
They made some very interesting choices that really jumped the shark. Let's call it for what it is. Like
it did jump the shark, yes.
The Free Willy of jumping the shark. Like it jumped high. Even though he's dead and resurrected, they want to arrest him, put him on trial, not study him or come up with any other weird questions. Like the logic of this season, of this half of the season, was so stupid flimsy that you stopped having fun watching the episodes.
This is stupid. This is stupid.
I couldn't watch an episode throughout the middle of this without hearing that. It was like the this is stupid chant every time he's going to court. This is stupid.
Well, the whole trial was a bunch of bullshit. They send him to jail, they convict him, and then what happens? They come right back and the judge is like, yeah, there was no material evidence. There was none of this shit. Your case is completely ungrounded. Fuck all this shit. It's like, yo, are you really throwing the case the fuck out when this should have been thrown out within 5 minutes of the very first episode of the trial? The fuck? I know you're trying to tell a goddamn story, but I'm sorry. These writers have to be completely inept to understand I know you're writing television, but this is literally the dumbest shit I have ever seen in a show. Night Court handles legal cases better than this shit.
Yeah.
Bam! You just got crowed, bitches.
Caw-caw! Caw-caw!
So it's like no fucking material evidence. You convict them, and then when it's time for sentencing, yeah, this trial was a sham. Fuck that shit. He's free to go. What the fuck? That was a complete waste of 2 episodes of a trial and him being in prison and dealing with something.
And that was the only part of the trial that I actually liked was the judge coming out and being like, y'all obviously didn't listen to a single thing we said about how to try this case.
Right. I mean, that would have made more sense if there was like those 2 episodes before that just didn't happen at all. I'd actually tell people not watch the 2 trial episodes. Don't watch them because they make no fucking sense. They completely are a waste of time. They really are.
Take the 2 trial episodes out and then that filler episode in between, the It's a Wonderful Death.
Oh, God.
That has Dwayne Wade come back as the cowboy to show him what life would have been like had they not died the way that they died. And all it was just him fucking with Eric to show him that's just the way it was.
That is such a formula episode. That just, I don't know why, but that episode legit pissed me off watching that. Like, why are you doing this in this show? You saved that shit for a second or a third season. I mean, yes, we've seen that in a TV show like Brimstone, but at least they did that fucking differently and put a different spin on it. This was just oh, you can't change the past, but I'm going to send you back so you can watch your girlfriend die every fucking time, you prick. It's like, wow. That's the point of this episode, is you just want to fuck with Eric for an episode. Wow.
Yeah.
Nice job, guys.
And we wanted to let them dance.
Jesus Christ.
Choices were made. Like,
Choices were made. This is stupid.
and now I understand why Mark doesn't like talking about this show when he's asked about it.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
It's alluded to in the IMDb credits. Like, it was not a very good experience for him.
I can believe that.
Well, they had him act ridiculous, and they changed his character
A lot in this second half.
way a lot. They turned the Crow into Mr. Hyde. Like, literally, they turn him into Mr. Hyde. He's his own entity, separate from Eric.
They
That
made
has
him the fucking Joker in an episode.
Yes, that he was like, had nothing but contempt for Eric.
Yeah.
As the Hulk would have for Banner, almost, but worse.
Right.
And it was not good. And that's just the way that they left it. And worse off is that was confusing. Like, where did this come from?
Right. I'm sure James O'Barr was like, yo, what the fuck are you doing with my property, bitches? This isn't Flip This House. This isn't Property Brothers. Like, yo, what the fuck are you doing with my shit?
Now,
I would be.
If that were me, and it's not, and this is a much more personal property to him,
Right.
I would just be like counting my money, making myself feel better. Like,
Hey, as long as the checks keep clearing, we're okay here. Yeah.
Yeah, I would just be counting Benjamins to make myself feel better to go to sleep.
I mean, I love Marcus the Crow, but like,
Yes.
Jesus Christ. So much shit happens off screen, everybody. When you get to the second half, it's like, hey, wait, are we missing an episode here? Something feels wrong. And I watched it in kind of a different order than Kevin, apparently. Because Kevin watched this on the archive.org. I watched the HD remasters on YouTube. So I feel like I watched it in probably the best order. But like, there's shit that happens between episodes that you're like, wait, when did Cordelia move out? What the fuck happened?
Yeah.
And shit like that. And then like Albright hooking up with freaking
Caption.
Yeah. And it's just like, I mean, we saw that happening. That was coming a mile away. Then he completely ditches her ass. It's like, yo, you had better chemistry with her than you had with fucking Cordelia. What the fuck?
Kinda, yes.
And I had really good chemistry. I think Christina Cox was actually one of the bright spots of the second season, because she was injured. She had PTSD from being shot. She had a lot going on. And it just felt like completely fucking wasted the last 2 episodes.
Yeah, because they kind of just dropped it. And with me, it it was completely out of order. The second to last episode had Albert back in uniform, her snooping after him again still, and not shot yet. It was the episode that she gets shot.
Right.
And so I'm like, wow, she's moving around pretty spry already. Like, good for her. So I mean, that got really confusing, and Archive had it up. There was a few episodes out of order that way, to the point where I'm kind of like, you know what? I don't know. I'm having a hard time cross-referencing this. Let's just go have a beer and enjoy what we're watching regardless.
Right, because you had said you were a couple episodes from being done. I'm like, well, which episode are you on? And you told me, and I'm like, dude, that's like 5 episodes from what I'm watching. You got 6 more to go. And you're like, no, there's 3 left. Like, oh shit. I didn't even know Archive was screwing around. It's whoever uploaded the episodes to Archive that they put them in that particular order. So they kind of messed around with that a little bit. But
yeah, like I couldn't do a 6-pack challenge to save my life, because I don't know.
No, we're not doing that.
Well, for one thing, they they go in order, they flow in order better than just 6 episodes throughout the 22. I'll give them that.
Yeah.
But
we'll drink a 6-pack over doing that. Should have saved cracking open this cold one for that point. Oh, well.
It still doesn't make it tolerable. Like,
yeah,
it really doesn't. My wife doesn't understand when I call my hobby my job and then I say I don't want to do this. And she's like, what do you mean you don't want to do it? You don't have to do it. And I'm like, no, I do have to do this. We've made a commitment to watch this show. We've promised people that we're watching this show. People are watching this show with us to listen to us talk about it,
whether they like the show or not.
Yeah, I'm like, that is a commitment that we've made to our listeners, to ourselves, to each other. But golly, was this just a mistake? And when she saw me last week staring at that wall when she'd come up and visit, because the hospital's an hour and a half away from where we live.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, she was there throughout the day, but just here and there because the kids had to go to school.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Anyway, and it's like she could see that I was more than willing to do anything else. Count cigarette or count flowers on the wall.
Watch paint dry.
Instead of watch The Crow, that I couldn't make it through one single episode throughout the entire week.
Yep.
And she's like, wow, you really don't like it. Like, it took that week for her to see I don't like this.
Yeah. Does it remind you of another episode that we've done, Kevin? War of the Worlds.
This is better than War of the Worlds. It is,
but not by much.
No. No, it's really not.
Oh my God, this made me want to pull my hair out. And I don't have much hair left.
If Mark was not playing Eric Draven in this, I wouldn't have enjoyed it at all, probably.
I agree. I like Mark Gomes just fine.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Mark. It was a shtick I was playing in the last episode, but
my
there
fault.
are some standout moments with Mark and both Marks, to be honest with you.
Yes.
And I feel like they really carried this show. So there are some good points to this show. They had solid moments in every episode. They had storylines that were playing to their strengths. Whether they were intelligent for their level, that's another question. Whether the dialogue that was given to them was great for them is another question. I'm going to blame that strictly on the writing, and the directing, and the show running. Yes, I'm calling out the showrunners. I usually don't, but you guys clearly didn't know what the fuck you were trying to aim for, and you tried to do way too much this second half. If you had just stayed in your lane and focused on one or two stories that could have built towards the second season, that would have paid off better for you in the long run. As it is, you try to inject 3 to 4 different fucking storylines, factions, and different things going on. I think you kind of missed the point of what The Crow was all about. Because by the very end, the very final scene, you have Shelley jumping off the bridge in the land of the dead, quote unquote, and she transports into a portal. She's now back to Earth. What the fuck? Why didn't you do this shit like fucking 20 episodes ago, you dumb fucks? You don't save that shit for the very fucking final episode because you got a cliffhanger. Now you piss people off because, oh, what's going to happen? Well, you dumb shits, you should have done that 10 episodes ago. Straight up. You should have done it 10 episodes ago. You would have had a more interesting story with that because you had her back on Earth for a brief minute in an episode, and that was a great idea. That is a fantastic fucking episode. That should have been episode 12 and episode 13, not the trial bullshit. And then you could have gone from there and sprung onto whatever else you were doing.
Yeah, Lazarus, I could accept that. It was silly, but it's a silly Canadian TV show too.
Bingo.
I expect stuff
was
like
his
that.
Name-o?
What I didn't expect was for Eric to go undercover while working
Ugh,
for undercover boss already,
I
and
know.
for them to have his reincarnations, and it took a lot of stupid episodes, a lot of stupid concepts thrown at the wall, like you said, that didn't need to be there, that took away from what could have been cool. You had
Right.
a Lady Crow in there. You could have had Shelley
Bobby
B.
Phillips.
Yeah.
Fantastic. She almost got cast in season 3 of First Wave.
Oh,
But
really?
Tracy Lords got the nod instead because Sci-Fi Channel wanted somebody else, not her.
As Sci-Fi Channel does.
Not that I'm complaining about Tracy. I got an interview with her 24 years ago that I might upload at some point in the near future.
Hey. That'd be pretty cool.
That'd be dope, but you're going to hear a very young Jeff and stumbling around on interviewing questions. But Bobby, I love that idea of a second Crow being somewhere out there. And Bobby Phillips, I felt like was absolutely fantastic. That gave a completely different dichotomy and angle on the Crow and the universe. And it made it a bit more interesting. I'm like, more of this, please.
Yes.
But not all the time. Every like maybe 6-7 episodes, you could have brought her back.
Yes, it was nice to see her come back. Well, for me, I think it was the skipping an episode. So there was one in between, like, oh, okay, well that was quick. She came back quickly. I don't know how many it was in between.
She was only in one.
Watched. No, I saw her in 2. Hannah. There was the episode where she comes back to life.
Right.
And then there's another episode where she's got to try to get a kidnapped girl back. Her Crow brings her a rattle. Like she went off on her sabbatical after Eric helped her, and her Crow finally comes to her and brings her this rattle that she gets a vision for, and that she goes to help this woman basically get her daughter back. It is a way for her to redeem herself, and it was a nice episode. But the music to it was just...
don't think I saw that episode.
Let me see if I might have a title. I doubt it.
Because I only remember her being in Birds of a Feather. After that, I never saw her again.
Closing time? That's where the drawn out waltzing scene was.
Oh, that... Don't get me started on that fucking episode. She wasn't in that episode, though.
No, okay, so yeah, that was a different...
That's the one where Fun Boy got released from prison by Top Dollar.
Oh, okay.
And the music by the quote-unquote henchman Soleil.
Who was a good character.
I like Soleil. That was a pretty fun character, but in that episode, I have some fun notes about this one. Is they had one of my favorite bands from that era, Econoline Crush. They had 2 songs in there from them. That was super dope. Yes, Econoline Crush, I'm a big fan. And what I liked was the ending actually made it for a lot of the episode, because I felt like Darla was not fighting back more than I thought she should against Funboy, who was clearly drunk and being a complete douche again to her. I would have liked Darla to have been a little more aggressive back towards him, like resisting, but he made her drink and then we never saw her again.
I saw her once, and I think this is probably that episode.
Okay.
It is actually, because it's a good episode for Capshaw.
Capshaw's great, by the way. Love her. Christina Cox, love you, girl.
Okay, so what happens is Darla goes back to drinking after that.
Yes.
And Sarah goes to Darla's desk, which Capshaw's working at this point, to get her sobriety tags and basically throw them away. And Capshaw sees it and calls her out, like, you know, your mom's sick. Don't get on her. Like, basically trying to get her to understand the mindset of an alcoholic. And you get to find out a little bit more about Capshaw, like her dad was an alcoholic and passed away from it. Yeah, that is the same episode. I just don't know what the damn title was. But that was, and you don't see Darla much in that, but she has quote unquote bottle flu.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So Capshaw has to take over briefly for Darla. And she's like, I'm ready to kill myself. Your mom is like Superwoman. I don't want to do this. Like,
Right. Yeah.
But anyhow, no, yeah. So was that The Road Not Taken, maybe? I have that crossed out.
I'm unsure.
I don't know, but my biggest complaint of the second episode that has Hannah in it was it was nice to see Hannah again. Hannah got to fight more. She was a little less cheesy, but just like in the first episode with her, the music was very Lilith fair, but it was very whiny.
Oh,
and
yeah.
And it was really making me want my fucking head to explode. Like it
Poof.
was on par with Bob Dylan. And if anyone's sitting there going, hey man, what's wrong with Bob Dylan? Don't act like you don't fucking know.
Gonna make your head explode.
Like the lady's voice was really pretty. It was just really whiny. It's like, bitch, shut up. I don't know what you're singing about. I don't know what you're whining about. I don't know what the angst is. I don't fucking care. Just stop singing. I'll pay you.
I don't want to close my eyes. I don't want to fall asleep because I miss you, babe.
And then in the goth rock section, they've got
Oh, shit. Oh, no.
Got You Where I Want You by The Flies. Which is kind of like a Lilith Fair song.
A little bit. that made me crack up so bad. I'm like, I don't think you guys were intending for that to happen. But...
Oh God, I'm like, really? The headlock song? And my wife's like, what do you mean the headlock song? I'm like, got you in a headlock.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, the music selection got progressively worse as the show went along.
Yeah, they were trying a little too hard at times. There were some episodes that were better than others, clearly. I mean, and Caudaline Crush being included was very typical for the time. So that was perfect. But like there was other musical selections. I'm like, the fuck y'all smoking over there? Can I get some of that? Because I could use some of that to watch this show.
90s horror was really weird. Like the soundtracks didn't generally...
You watch your mouth. I'm not a whore. I'm messing with you.
This week.
This week. Yeah, you know.
Oh God, I'm gonna lose myself there with that. Like the show and the soundtrack didn't make sense like the movie and the soundtrack did.
Very true. Even the second Crow movie had a better soundtrack by comparison.
Yeah, and that might have had the same fucking White Zombie song on it too, I think. I'm not sure.
More human than is human.
Yeah. I don't know. You know, I was talking to Rob the other day and I had a thought.
Is that why I smell bacon?
Bacon. I love The Crow. The Crow will always be one of my favorite 90s movies. It is essential. But I think The Crow as a franchise, as an IP, is probably the worst and unluckiest IP that's come out in our lifetime.
I would agree with that.
Like second only to fucking, or second to it only would be Blood Rain, I think. Like,
oh dear God,
it just has consistently shitty sequels. and they get progressively worse as they go downhill. And the soundtracks just get worse from there. I don't know about the comic books. I couldn't say anything about that. Again, should I go back and read the original? Yes, of course, absolutely.
We all should.
But goodness, the movies and the TV show have just left just the worst taste in my mouth, and I don't know that I really want any more of this fucking IP ever. And the new movie coming out is just going to reinforce that shit.
Yeah, it's supposed to be for a more modern audience, but even modern audiences don't want this kind of a story anymore. Like, superhero fatigue is a thing, and so is mediocre movie fatigue, and that looks exactly right up the alley of being another mid movie. And we're already dealing with enough of that this year. It's not going to succeed. I would love to be proven wrong. I would love to be proven wrong. But much like this show, like, it's a product of its time, but this show wasn't exactly on par with what should have been out for a Crow TV show. Yeah. Mark is a fantastic actor. I got no problem with any of the actors except for the fucking captain. John Cuthbert. Like, by the time they gave that guy a legit scene to actually work, to me it felt like he was phoning it in. So I can't explain why I just did not like him, like, ever. Who knows? He might have been directed to be like that from the word go, from the beginning of the season to the very end. But I never got into the captain's character because he just seems so fucking not interested in even being there. That's how it came across on screen, and the directors and editors were okay with that. So, you know what? That's your fault for having a character like that on the show then. But, like, for the most part, all the actors actually do a pretty damn good job, or I wouldn't have been as invested as I was and been a little, and I'll say it, a little butt sore that the show kind of sucked the second half.
Yeah, and part of the problem I had with the second half was, okay, so where we left off in the last episode is we were talking about how we liked the evolution of Albrecht finally getting to the point where he's got the stick out of his ass and starting to accept Eric. And at this point, he calls him Eric, and he's like, wow, you never call me Eric. 2 seconds later, he has to arrest Eric for the murder of Shelley.
Yep.
Not by his choice. He's a pawn.
Well, and he gave him a chance. You can either hit me and knock me the fuck out, or I have to arrest you. Take your pick.
Yeah, and it really was him asking him, please hit me and knock me out so I don't have to do this.
Right.
And from that point on, he de-evolved. He went back to the, I don't trust you. Why should I do this for you? I'm going to get in trouble if I talk to you. I'm going to end up being in a uniform again.
Yeah, that retconning bullshit kind of irritated me. I'm like, yo, you just wasted 12 episodes of your first half to do that to his character? The fuck are you doing?
Kinda. It took it right back to the very beginning, and that's not okay.
Unnecessary.
It didn't need to be.
No, you still could have had a little bit of friction between the two of like, hey, I had to bring in, I got demoted. I'll still help you, but I am seriously limited here. And for a while, once it finally got used to Albrecht being in a police beat on the street, that kind of a uniform Albrecht. By the time he got used to that, they're like, "Oh, you're going to be a detective again, so screw all that shit." It's like, no, he was actually doing like what they did in the movie. Like, he was finding his footing on the street and feeling a little more freedom to be able to kind of continually move around, do more than he was doing as a detective, feeling like he could actually do better on the street than as a detective. And his partner at the time, when they finally introduced that, he even said, like, I could have qualified for detective. I mean, yes, there was a little bit of like racial innuendos going on in the show for an episode.
A little.
Where they were like, hey, let's sue the department because you're black and you got demoted. It's like, oh, Jesus Christ. I don't even remember this episode from years ago. But you got the other guy going like, yeah, I didn't become detective because I'm black. I did qualify. However, he then turned around and said, I like what I'm doing a lot more now than I think I would have as a detective. And that gave Albrecht a baseline to be like, hey, I don't need to be a detective to make a fucking difference around here. And then 2 episodes later, okay, Albrecht, you're a detective again. Oh, fuck off. I would have been like, fuck off, Captain. This is not how I want it. Screw off. I'm doing what I'm doing.
I hate this job. I hate this goddamn job, and I don't need it.
Kinda like, do I need to be in here? Can I tell you to fuck off and get sent right back to demotion? Like,
right.
Because again, the captain was not that interesting. He was a prick throughout the entirety of it.
Straight up.
He's written
when they tried to make him relatable, it didn't work.
Yeah, like you didn't care that he got his kids back. You didn't care that he got his wife back. Yeah, you didn't care about any of that. It took away from the fact that you were watching an episode that had Anthony Michael Hall in it.
Yep.
Golly, that should have been like the episode. But no, it was an Evil Dies Tonight sort of moment.
Evil Dies Tonight. This is stupid.
It qualifies for both. It really did. Which again, that episode was not the worst thing. Those last 2 episodes were not bad. I think
no, those were pretty tight. I was okay with that, even with like Shelley jumping off the bridge and coming back to the land of the living.
It made me laugh because I'm like, oh shit, it's 90s. She's bungee jumping. She's doing it, kids. Look, she's doing it.
Extreme Crow, Stairway to Heaven, X Games style.
She had her arms out and the fucking hip spread, or the way that they do the bungee jumping pose. It's, I don't know.
I'm flying.
Yeah, it was done perfectly. Yep.
I mean, it's a good ending. I just how they got there just kind of irritated me. I'm like, where was this shit like a half a season ago? That would have made this way more interesting. You didn't have to put in all this filler bullshit. You could have just stuck to a preset plan and gone for it. Just go for it. You think you're only going to get 1 season? Just fucking go for it.
Kinda. And at that point, if you think you're only getting 1 season, write your story with a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Bingo.
Don't sit there, let's have them wanting more. That's not the way fucking syndication works. They should have goddamn known that.
I mean, that barely worked for Star Trek. And that was more popular than this. Any other show that tried this kind of shit always ended with like oh, gee, another cliffhanger. Why should I invest in another show that ends on a cliffhanger? Fuck that show.
Yeah, like really the only show that could get away with that at this point in time, I think, was X-Files. And even then, people were like, okay, what's going to happen now?
Well, and other shows say like Stargate SG-1 at this time, they were doing something like that with their final episodes of the season. They already knew they were coming back for another season. They never set up something like that unless they knew they were getting another season. Crow did, as far as I know, like Crow, there was rumored to be a second season, but it was never in concrete. And then the production company got bought and Universal Studios basically said, fuck off. We're not doing it anymore.
Wow. I mean, I get it. It was stupid as fuck, but golly, that sucks for everybody that was employed.
Right. And I wish no ill will on any of the actual workers on this show. Y'all did a fine goddamn job. Even Sid Kozak. You know who I'm talking about, buddy. I'm shouting you out.
You all did great except for the writers.
Yeah. Well, and some of the writers probably could have been a little more educated on putting together a better Bible or something with the showrunner, but well, if you're not going to ask James O'Barr, hey, what would you like to do with this show? Then kind of get what you got with this show. unfortunately.
Yeah.
But Mark Dacascos still lit every episode. I loved him when he was playing kind of like a Joker Crow. That was super fun.
That still confused me greatly. Like,
Yeah.
wait, what's happening? Is he Mr. Hyde now? Okay, I mean, that's just what we're gonna do.
It was like Undertaker versus fake Undertaker from like old wrestling days.
Ah, yes.
Which one's the real one? Oh, you know which one's the real one, but like it's Mark playing both sides of the coin on that one.
And I will say this about that: when they did the whole twin vision, they did that very well.
Yes,
the special effects were not as corny as they could have been at all. They did a good job. And they made sure that you knew that they were doing a good job by having him walk around one another and not having it look stupid. You're like, oh, neat. And the colors didn't look off between the two actors, well, the two characters.
Well, there's probably a stunt double in the opposite scenes.
Yeah, but they did a darn good job from it.
Yeah,
that unfortunately was the only good job of the episode, other than the actual ass whooping.
This is true.
Which again, he can't not throw a punch and not have it look cool. That's the dude's gift given by God.
That is too true, good sir. Man, but I would not want to piss Mark Dacascos off. He could probably smoke both of our asses and before we blinked an eye.
Yeah, I've been watching him beat people's asses since I was a little kid. I wouldn't know.
Right.
Never, not a single once.
Yep.
Now, who I can and will badmouth because I've been watching him and look up to him since I was a kid.
Do
it. Corey!
We got Corey'd on this.
So happy. I'm never not happy to see Corey Feldman. I don't know why.
I had completely forgotten he was in this show at all. The first time I saw him, I'm like, oh shit, we got Corey'd.
I saw him and recognized him before I heard him and recognized him.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, did those cigarettes kick his ass? And no, it wasn't that, because I've seen him in interviews and in movies since then, and he sounds much more like himself.
Right.
Like he was invoking Jimmy Durante in this episode. Like he was talking like this.
Okay.
And you couldn't figure out why. It was hard to watch, but I didn't think I was going to like that episode because, of course, Corey Feldman's in here. How goofy and cheesy is this going to get? But golly, dude never phones it in. Like he's always having fun when he's working. His characters are always genuine. And he played this guy as best as he possibly could. And now that granted, that makes Corey come off looking like a fucking scuzzball. But he played this guy really well. Basically, he plays Eric's stepbrother or half brother, foster brother, excuse me, that they made up on the spot for the episode. And that he has to go back and take care of him to get him out of like gang trouble or mafia trouble for knowing where money's at that's stolen. Very tropish, but still very fun to watch. It wasn't horrible. The only bad part about it was watching Corey be a big douche to Mark throughout the entire episode.
Yep.
Until he does the whole grabby feely thing and touches his head.
Touchy grabby feely.
Touchy grabby feely. I mean, it was fun. It was a stupid episode. You said you knew the actor or one of the actresses in that episode, didn't you? Like the bad guy's girlfriend. You had met her. Didn't you say that you'd met the actress that played the bad guy's girlfriend in that episode?
Yes, in Brothers Keeper. The blonde that was with the clock with the key in it. Yeah, I like April Tellick. She's a very fine lady. I had an interview with her 20 years ago as well. And I was visiting the set of a couple of TV shows at the time. And she was one of the ladies I was very honored and lucky to interview at that time. She would later go on to another TV show with Adrian Paul. And I think she did pretty good. And it's unfortunate. It was called The Immortal. So people might remember that a little bit. But you would remember him more from like Highlander, of course. But April is a fantastic lady. And I thought she did great for the brief scene that she was in.
Yeah, like she had me going. I didn't think that she was.
I was like, wait,
harboring.
that's a hot lady. I'm like, oh shit, that's right. I interviewed her like over 23 years ago. She probably don't even remember my sorry ass.
Sorry about the hot thing. That was inappropriate. Take it for what it is.
Still fucking hot today.
Oh, I'm
What
sure.
the hell are you talking about? Get in line.
Yeah.
That's for you, April.
Everyone's got to kick me at some point for somebody.
Oh, I'm tagging April on this if she's out there on any social media. She could be like, oh, is that the guy? Yep. You were in Black Box, April. If you're listening to this, I was there when they were shooting that one.
That would have been cool.
Yep. But no, a lot of fun actors, Corey, April, like across the board, like even the judge. I'm like, dude, love seeing this guy in here. And then Robert Wisden was in it too. Like that was super fun to watch. A bunch of like these like Vancouver actors, even fucking Major Davis from Stargate fame was in this. And Stargate SG1 fans, if you like your Major Davis with some shit ass Gomez Adams looking mustache on his face, dude, that is in this show. It is super funny. And his accent, they do the Terry O'Quinn thing from Harsh Realm in this. They make him a Mexican with a shitty mustache and a horrible accent. It's fucking horrible, but it's so good at the same time.
Was that the Brothers Keeper bad guy?
Yep.
Okay.
With the super shit Gomez Adams. Yep. I'm like, oh, dude, your agent, I hope he knew what he was doing when he got you that gig and told them they should let you grow out a real mustache.
I didn't dislike him. I thought he was a cool enough bad guy.
Oh yeah, that guy's super great. I love him in Stargate SG1. So whenever I see him or even that guy from the first half that I call Martoof, like whenever I see them, I just go Martoof, Major Davis. It's like, oh man, I like you guys way too much in those other roles. I wish you had more to do.
Yeah, but it is nice when you see them in things like this. They make things like this nice to watch.
Well, that's part of the charm about like the 90s TV shows and early 2000s, where if it was shot in Vancouver, chances are you would recognize like at least one actor per episode, if not more.
Oh, I bet, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Just almost lost that beer across the table.
Don't lose the beer, or you're going to get sent back to the land of the dead, Kevin.
Land of the dead.
But you'll just jump through the portal at the end of the episode anyway and come right back. So,
just like that window, like you could do just about anything with it. I would, if I was him, I'd just be jumping through it randomly, since like you never know when or what was going to come through there.
Right. And there were times he would see like some sort of warble or whatever going on over it. It's like, man, you guys really have a thing for that window. Why don't you just have him just jump through it? He ain't gonna die anyway.
Kinda. Like it would have been fun to watch.
Well, when he was trying to convince his brother, like, hey, I'm actually like dead, and you stole my girlfriend's camera, and your dad really didn't die like you think he did. He didn't abandon you. Jesus Christ.
That was a chip on a shoulder if I ever saw one. Like,
no kidding.
You weren't even there, motherfucker. Where do you get off?
Yeah, thinking like your dad abandoned you. Like he died in Vietnam. What the fuck, yo?
Like
fucking hippie.
Kinda.
Sorry, Corey, but that's what your character kind of was in this one. Fucking hippie.
You ungrateful little beep.
Little bitch.
That's not the word I was thinking of.
Yeah, but no, I there was a lot to enjoy, but there was a lot to really rag on with the second half. It just didn't stick the landing like at all, in my opinion. It's unfortunate. They were probably having hopes for a second season to kind of fix some shit and like really get going, but when you're in syndication, you can't afford to do shit like that. You just can't do that.
No. I mean, it even sucks because, like you said, they thought they were going back to work.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what they thought that they were going to do the first time around.
No kidding.
Like were the courtroom scenes, the It's a Wonderful Life trope, were those planned on, or just like, you know what, golly, we know we said we were going to fill up some time, but we don't think we actually can. What do we need here?
Hey, we got signed up for 22 episodes. We need 5 more episodes stat. So let's go.
Yeah, so I don't know.
I don't know either. But at least there was some enjoyment out of this show. It's not like we're hating this because the show completely fucking sucked. It's just there were some gross missteps and mistakes made during the second half that did not help it and did not allow for it to continue on into a second season.
Right. And it should just be common knowledge that if you have a story set up that has wonderful, amazing things that keeps your readers going throughout consistently X amount of pages, keep that going. Because if you stop for more than those pages or more than that amount of pages, you're going to lose your reader. You're going to lose your watcher, your viewer. That's what happened in this regard. You saw X amount of episodes that were really good, and then they showed you more episodes than what you'd just seen that were not good at all. Not worse, just not good at all. Like they were soul draining is what they were.
Yes.
Very tedious.
Yeah, it was getting pretty tedious there at the very end.
Very end. It was episode 12. It took me a week to watch it. And that was about gaslighting. We didn't even say why that one sucked so much. That was the episode about gaslighting.
Yep.
The abusive husband that
Oh Jesus, yeah.
that bought the club just so he can get his wife back and torture her.
Man, the ownership changes of the nightclub are just starting to make my head spin at the very end. Like, so who owns the fucking club, and why did you get rid of the other chick?
Kinda. Oh wait, didn't she die?
No, I don't think so.
Because
I don't remember that, but I might be wrong.
The lady from not Pulp Fiction, Kill Bill.
She just seemed to disappear as far as I was concerned.
No, she got shot for him, I think. And then she placed the blonde lady in charge, interim manager, and then the interim manager's husband came and bought the place, and then once he died, she was legally in charge of the place since he bought it. And then now she owns all his stuff. So I think she wound up being the final owner, but I honestly couldn't say because, again, shit bounced back and forth so much in general, let alone the issue I had with watching stuff out of order. Like at one point they said Capshaw was in fucking rehab. I'm like, oh, dude, they wrote her out quick. Didn't realize it was like physical rehab.
That's true.
Just thought it was funny. Like she shows up at Albrecht's. They get down. Next thing you know, he and Cordelia are talking about how she's in rehab. It was like, damn. Did not like that character all of a sudden.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, this show is a great big mess. I am glad we watched it. It is exactly what I've always defined as terrible television that my father would watch.
Right.
I'm very glad that I did not go out and try to buy a used copy of it. Even happier that I didn't go out and buy an out of print new copy of it.
Okay.
So I could watch 100 other great Mark Dacascos projects that's not this. Anyway, sorry.
No,
I
that's
digress
okay.
for a second. This project or the Crow series, I get why they wanted to make the money for it. This could have
Right.
been any superhero series. They just tweak things here and there to make it like the original movie, and it just didn't need to be. It's
Kind
it's
of like
not,
Mortal Kombat Conquest, everybody.
yes, or even Annihilation.
Well, Conquest was the TV show they did for Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, but wasn't one of those supposed to be pretty good? Or was it
Conquest TV show is better than Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
okay? Well, see that.
The ending on Mortal Kombat Conquest is actually very dope. You'll watch the show and you'll be like, oh, this show is kind of dumb, Jeff. By the end, you're gonna be like, oh, okay, I get why you wanted me to watch this one now.
But that was kind of cool, though.
Yeah. But unlike The Crow, like at least that has kind of a finality to the ending and it carries on the lore very well. The Crow just feels like it's completely missing the boat, like most of the time in the second half. Yes, the stories are still a little engaging. The characters are still fun for the most part, but you still have like characters that have no reason for being in this show other than to serve as just a distraction or as a MacGuffin for a plot that is basically just for an episode. So it's kind of hard to like really recommend that this show was actually really good. I think it could have been so much better. I think they just kind of missed the boat with what they were trying to do. I think they just tried to cram in way too much the second half. That's just my opinion on that. And I really think that hurt their show.
I think so. That and the normality of Eric doing normal things that people do, like go to prison, go undercover. I mean, most people don't go undercover, but you know what I mean. Get a job. Like, yeah, come on, man. You're losing the fans.
Yeah, you don't even have the fun little characters from like Special Unit 2, like, hey, you guys again. With the druggy hippie guy.
I think that was great.
Yeah. Well, Kevin, got any final thoughts before we wrap it up for everybody?
No, other than golly, thank you everybody for sticking with us on this one.
Yeah.
That we're watching along. We totally appreciate you watching along with us. We watch it with you guys spiritually. We do.
Right.
This was just a tough one. It was a tough one to get through, and I guess it was a team effort.
Yeah, it was pretty hard to get through the last half, and not because it was so good the ending was coming its way. It was man, this show was really starting to struggle. The first half didn't struggle like this, but the second half did for some reason. It's kind of weird. The show just it was fighting against itself. It's very unfortunate it was doing that. And while the fights are still fun and there's still some cool moments, good character moments, good story arcs going on, it's just way too much. It's like throwing mud at a wall and seeing what sticks. Ultimately, that's going to be the big failure of this show and why it didn't get renewed. I'm not going to hear this about ratings. It had nothing to do with ratings. Ultimately, it got bought up by another show, or I'm sorry, another studio, and they decided we don't want to do any more Crow. That's the end of this. And as far as Mark Dacascos goes, hey, he went into fucking John Wick and Iron Chef. So he's had a pretty good career after that. So I think of all the things, him and Katie Stewart were absolutely flawless on this show. Loved Mark Gomes. And I really liked Christina Cox as Capshaw. I thought she was great. I really didn't like what they did with the relationship between with her and Albrecht towards the very end. It feels like they just completely threw that out the fucking window. And it's like, yo, you had something interesting there and they had great chemistry and you threw it out for what? Like the girl that ditched his ass the second he got in trouble?
Yeah.
Like, fuck Cordelia. Seriously. I'm like, why are you going back with her? She was not a good fit for you. And you had problems with her before you even got to the point of trying to move in with her. It felt like that the natural progression of your character was to move on to somebody else or just be alone.
Somebody that appreciated him, and fucking Capshaw wanted to appreciate him.
Right. And who knows? Maybe we could have gotten there in a second season, but we'll never know that. It's unfortunate, but like Christina Cox, Mark Gomes, yo, you two had some excellent chemistry. Do not feel bad about your work like at all in The Crow Stairway to Heaven. And Katie, Mark Dacascos, excellent as well. Thank you for giving us an enjoyable show. I just wish it had turned out a little bit better for you and it had given you a little more longevity in these characters. I think eventually it all would have settled in and become a decent show, but we never got there. And James O'Barr, hope you were collecting those checks, bro, because here comes the money. Keeps on coming. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you all next time. Make sure you check us out on all of our social media platforms. We got Facebook, Twitter. We are at Suns and Shadows. We're also on Instagram at Suns and Shadows Cast. We are at SunsAndShadows.com. Thank you again, everybody, and we'll see you down the road.